Others don't get the chance. According to the United Nations, 500,000 Yemeni children are out of school because of the conflict.
That was Orla Guerin reporting from Yemen. Let us talk to Andrew Mitchell, the former International Development Secretary, who is on the line. Morning to you.
Good morning.
So we have this donor conference today. What is your understanding about the position the British government's going to take?
Well, we haven't seen the firm figures, but we're led to believe that there could be a cut as big as 50% in Britain's support for Yemen. And that would not be entirely surprising because the government have announced its intention to reduce the development budget by an amount which, together with the cut that will take place anyway because of the diminution in point 7, could mean a 50% cut in Britain's development budget, something like 8 billion this year as opposed to 15 billion last year. And the effect of a 50% cut would be very serious indeed. Sir Mark Lowcock, the senior British official at the UN, has made it clear that were a cut like that to take place, 4 million Yemenis, mainly children, will continue the slow, agonizing and obscene process of starving to death. And Britain holds the pen on Yemen. We are the senior country at the UN which addresses the issues of Yemen, and it's happening during the British presidency of the UN Security Council. So it's a very serious matter indeed in terms of what is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world at the moment, but also in an area where Britain has in the past showed very considerable leadership and achieved extraordinary results.
On that last point, I wonder if the government might say, well, in the past, the Gulf states have stepped away and not provided the kind of aid that they should have done. It is their responsibility now, and particularly, of course, Saudi Arabia, so heavily involved in the war, to step up.
Well, that is true, and the other countries should step up, but it would set a very bad example if Britain, as the leading country at the United Nations on Yemen, it would set a very bad example were we to cut at all, let alone by nearly 50%.
But I mean, it might be the example that it sets is that we are no longer able to keep up the kind of response that we had in the past, and others who bear more responsibility for what is happening in Yemen should bear the burden themselves. And I would just wonder if a lot of people listening might not think that's a perfectly reasonable position.
Well, others should step up, and Britain has been extremely good at making sure that other countries do fulfill their role. British leadership delivered the ability to do that. But remember that in Yemen, we are complicit in what is happening on the ground there because we are part of the Saudi coalition. And so we cannot wash our hands of that. The military campaign in Yemen has led to the destruction of infrastructure. It's led to the famine conditions which exist there now. And the UN says with authority that this could be the worst famine the world has ever seen. And remember that at the last general election, every single member of parliament was elected, all 650 of us, on a promise to stand by the point 7. And any change in that requires a change in the law of the land. It cannot be done by executive fiat, and it's quite possible that Parliament would not approve cuts of this scale resulting from the breaking of that promise on the point 7.
When you say we're complicit, that is a big charge, isn't it? And the government would say absolutely that we are still selling arms to Saudi Arabia, but with the various licenses in place, we're making sure that they're not used on civilians. Are you saying that it is imperative that the British government follows what the Biden administration has done and simply suspend all arms sales to Saudi Arabia immediately?
No, I'm not saying that because that wouldn't necessarily make any position to the poor people who are suffering on the ground. What I'm saying is that Britain is complicit in what has happened in Yemen. We are part of the Saudi coalition, and we cannot wash our hands of what is going on the ground there, the humanitarian catastrophe.
Well, why don't we just stop selling them arms?
Well, that may or may not be the right answer, but it will not have an effect today and in the next 6 months and the year on the famine conditions that are going on the ground there. And the reason for that is that Saudi Arabia is a wealthy country surrounded by its enemies, and it will get the arms from somewhere. The point is that through the pledging conference today at the United Nations, Britain can show the leadership which is absolutely implicit in its role as president of the UN Security Council in making sure this point is addressed. And these cuts that today are the harbinger of cuts to come in the future, and it will lead to hundreds of thousands of avoidable deaths in other parts of the world too, where Britain's development leadership in the past has made such an incredible difference.
Andrew Mitchell, thank you very much.
Time now is 21.